Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lucy and today we'll be talking NaNoWriMo 2023. So I make these videos every year because it is coming up to November and it means NaNoWriMo season. So this will actually be my 10th year taking part in NaNoWriMo, and it feels really nice because I have a routine every November where I try and write as much of a novel as I can. So if you don't really know anything about NaNoWriMo, it is National Novel Writing Month and it happens every November. The goal is to write 50,000 words of a novel or whatever you're writing, really, just a project, and you don't win anything at the end. You don't really, it's not like the purpose is to compete. It's more just so you get 50,000 words of a novel written or whatever you're writing, and to do a daily habit of writing 1,600 words a day. So I really like it because it's something that gives me a bit of a kickstart with writing, where I can usually let writing fall by the wayside for the rest of the year, but for November it's really nice because I know that my one daily goal is to write, and that is a lovely, lovely thing. So NaNoWriMo, you can sign up on the website, nanowrimo.org, I think it is, and create a profile. You can join the challenge every November, and it's lovely. There are forums, there are lots of writing tools, there are pep talks, and I just find it a really lovely community to be a part of every November. And what I'm going to do is, before I get started and reveal what my project for this year will be and some helpful tips and tricks to help you if you are taking part this year, I am going to first mention my writing and NaNoWriMo playlist on YouTube, where you can catch up with all of my NaNoWriMo vlogs, all of my NaNoWriMo videos, my tips and tricks, tools for success, everything you need if you're about to embark on this journey. So let's just have a little recap, because last NaNoWriMo, I really wanted to get a head start onto a project I was calling Season of Mists. And I didn't do NaNoWriMo in great success last year. It was a very, very busy time of year, as it usually is in book publishing, which is the industry where I work. And I think I managed to get about 30,000 words of a novel written. Now, what is really lovely and very full circle in a way is that that project that I wrote last year in NaNoWriMo was a historical fantasy novel, and I finished that at the beginning of this year. So I managed to actually finish that project in March this year, and actually this time of year, so almost a year on from when I really first started writing that project, I am querying agents with that project. And that is the power of NaNoWriMo in a nutshell. It's like, give yourself the opportunity to just see where your writing can take you, because I never imagined that, that jewel of an idea, that thing that I started and that NaNoWriMo project I did last year, I'd be querying with this year. It's crazy to think of. So obviously I finished that project that I was starting in NaNoWriMo last year. So what is my project for NaNoWriMo this year? So I have heard this piece of advice from many friends who are authors and have been querying agents in the past, and they really suggest to start a new work in progress when you're kind of working on trying to get a literary agent. So that is exactly what I'm going to do for NaNoWriMo this year. And I do have a little germ of an idea swimming around in my brain, and I'm going to go on to the idea of Preptober a bit further on in this video. But where I am currently is I'm in Preptober mode for NaNoWriMo, which means I am germinating this idea in my brain, the idea that I really want to start in NaNoWriMo this year. It is another historical fantasy book. It's set in a different time period than where I started my other project, Season of Mist, which I'm querying right now. That is really set in the Regency era, and this project is going to be more set in the Victorian era. Think Gothic, think demonic, think the occult and spiritualism that was so rife in Victorian England, and of course, really was popularized by Queen Victoria herself in terms of her fascination with mediums and the occult, especially after her husband, Prince Albert, died. So that's really something that I'm thinking about, and also wanting to blend it in with another idea that I do have, which is kind of an idea inspired by my homeland, my part of the world, which is the northeast of England, and the industry there, which is so integral to the history of the area, which is mining and coal mining. In my head, I've got this idea merging those two things together. Really, I have this idea of kind of like the darker side of like the Industrial Revolution in the Victorian era, and blending in the spiritualism, the medium, the obsession with the occult in that time period as well. And I'm not going to give anything more than that away. I don't have a title, but I do have this kind of idea swimming around of like the darkness and the depths and the fantasy elements that can be brought out of those two kind of ideas, that historical inspiration, I guess. And I must say that's where most of my ideas start from, history. I'm a big history lover. I love reading historical fiction, but I also like reading history books. I've studied history for most of my life. I did graduate in English literature, but I did history for my first year of uni as well as English, and my obsession with history has just kind of kept me going, I guess. And a lot of my writing projects are inspired by true historical events, and if I ever am one day an author, I'd love for that to be my like USP, is like fantasy and kind of like supernatural stories that were inspired or have a grounding and a root in a historical event or a historical time period. So that's really what I think is inspiring me as a writer. And let's go on to the things that I'm going to be doing that will help me achieve success in NaNoWriMo this year. So this feeds into something called Preptober. And now Preptober is a word coined by NaNoWriMo and the writing communities who take part in NaNoWriMo, basically saying October is prep time. It's Preptober. So that is exactly what I'm doing right now, is I'm kind of thinking about my project, thinking about my ending. Like, funnily enough, in terms of process, how I plan, which I'm going to go into in terms of my tips and tricks for success this year, I always start with the ending. And I think like that is something that I've been ruminating all of this month as I'm filming this in October. And what I do have plans for is a little session just pulling together my plotting. Now, let's feed in how to prep for NaNoWriMo if you are not a plotter like me. So there are obviously two camps in the writing community, or I guess three if you're blending the two. There's the plotters who plot every single detail of their novel. There's the pantsers, which I've always been in the camp of, where you write by the seat of your pants. Like, you don't like having an outline, you don't like having a plan, you just like to see where the writing takes you. And that's really served me well up until the point of me wanting to be a published author, because now I'm realizing that plantsing is the way to go. And what does this mean? This basically means you need to have a loose outline, but you're also willing to fill in the gaps and let the writing take you where it wants to take you. There is nothing better, in my opinion, than the feeling of having a destination in mind, but not knowing how you're going to get there. And that to me is like the ultimate, that is like plantsing in my head of what that means. So that is how I work best really with novels, is I plan the beginning, I plan the midpoint, which is going to be the real dramatic, what is your dramatic, juicy midpoint that completely like changes the course of the novel, and what is your dramatic climax at the end. So I plot out those three plot points in October for NaNoWriMo. I kind of visualize like, how does my novel like open? What's the big kind of crux to the plot? What is the midpoint? What's the ending? And then once I know those three things, I can really start to get into the nitty gritty of kind of plot points. I use this structure, which I'll pop on here as a kind of graphic, but I found this really helpful in terms of planning out the emotional beats of your novel. So again, I am not the type of person who is writing chapter by chapter outlines for my novel, ever. Like, that just isn't gonna be me, and I find it quite restricting. But I do like having destinations. I like having emotions to aim for, like what is the character's emotional journey, you know, throughout the novel. I like kind of being able to know what that is. And that's really how I tend to plan and prepare for NaNoWriMo. So let's talk about NaNoWriMo itself, because like, if you're like me and it's always a busy time of year, November, it is, especially for me, like it's been a busy 3 to 4 months work-wise. Like, I've just started a new job. Well, I started at the end of July. It has been all consuming, and honestly, I feel like I've not really surfaced the air yet. It's kind of in at the deep end, huge heavy workload as publishing tends to be, and you know, I am trying to just get through the autumn, because autumn's always publishing's busiest time in terms of publicity, which is the department that I work in. So basically, I know that realistically I probably won't be able to hit 50,000 words in November, but what I am trying to do is to at least hit 30,000, and that will give me a really good basis of my novel. I think that will really get me in the crux of the novel, in the meaty bit, and then I can really work on it throughout December, January, Feb, and hopefully have a draft ready by the end of spring next year. So, tips for success if you are a busy person who just realistically can't dedicate every single day to writing 1,600 words a day. I mean, I feel you, I'm here for you. It's a balance, isn't it? It's just a big balancing act. So, this is how to protect your mental health whilst doing NaNoWriMo, how to not burn out, but equally how to achieve success. And don't get me wrong, I have won NaNoWriMo 4 or 5 times, which is where you hit 50,000 words written in a month. And I've done that with full-time jobs, working events in the evenings, as is my job, and having social plans as well. So I do feel like I've got the tips for you guys. So my number one tip is to actually block off time. I think you've got to see your time as like a limited resource, and it is a resource. It is something that you spend. So I think of your time as a precious thing that you're spending, and choose it wisely, like what you're spending it on. I think if you know that you're going to be super busy during the week, you have to realistically block off your weekends. And I think there's a way to do it where you're blocking your weekends out, you're prioritizing your writing, but also allowing yourself to relax, de-stress from the week, look after yourself, like still be a healthy, functioning human. But I think it is working out when you write best. Now for me, I know that I love kind of an afternoon, early evening writing slot, and I definitely do tend to work better in the evenings. But especially during the week, the evenings are when I am the most burnt out and the most exhausted. So what I did during NaNoWriMo last year that actually really helped me was I got up for work 45 minutes earlier, half an hour earlier. And because I work from home most of the time, it really wasn't that early. Like I managed to wake up at 7 and still get like half an hour to 45 minutes writing time in before work, and started work at 9:30 or 9 a.m. and you know, I still felt like I had my entire morning. So I think realizing that even half an hour is fine. Like half an hour writing is better than no time writing. And blocking out, calendar blocking your weekdays or weekends, whenever you want to slot that writing time in, is so important. I really think it's about prioritizing your goals and yourself, because I think it's so easy to let social plans, work plans, everything else just plan your week for you. But I think if you're actually blocking in your own time as well, that just helps you with the boundaries. And I think that's super, super important. Now, November, especially in this side of the world, means darker evenings, colds and flus going around, like the weather turning colder. You know, it is peak hibernation season, and I think make the most of that. Now, I really try to romanticize NaNoWriMo as much as I can. I will buy writing candles. I will, you know, only write with these candles. I don't put them on any other time. And then it kind of transports you into this is writing time. Like my favorite scent is on, it feels cozy, you know, get yourself a blanket, treat yourself to like an autumnal tea that you can only drink when you're writing. Make yourself a NaNoWriMo playlist. I have a Spotify playlist for every single one of my writing projects, and I really love pulling them together because it just really helps the atmosphere, and you're immediately in the novel, you know, you just listen to that playlist and it's like, okay, it's writing time. That really helps as well. I also find writing rewards and writing kind of just like, you know, bribing yourself is always a good thing. So I tend to be bribing myself with food. So if I manage to write 1,000 words, so for every 1,000 words, I will treat myself to a sweet treat or a chocolate or something like that. And you know, rewarding yourself when you've done your work is like a way to get the work done. You know, it just works. I also tend to reward myself by giving myself really something fun to do after my writing. So for example, if I know that there's a new episode of my favorite series waiting for me, I will not watch that episode until I've done my writing, and then I can just be like, right, I'm in full slug mode now. I can watch my favorite TV show knowing that I've done the work that I've needed to do. Another top tip for success is accountability partners and writing buddies. Now, it is hard to find like-minded individuals sometimes, and this is really where the NaNoWriMo forums come in, and they often have local writing groups, like in-person writing groups that NaNoWriMo organises. So I live in London, and there's like a big NaNoWriMo group that meets, you know, every weekend or several times during the week during NaNoWriMo to write. Now, I've not actually done this because I do have quite a lot of friends, obviously working in the publishing industry, that are either authors who are doing NaNoWriMo or are publishing professionals like me who are writers. And I have a friend who, even though she lives in Australia, when she used to live here, we used to do writing clubs every November where we used to just like sit and write, and we'd have a break, we'd have a glass of wine, it was fun. But now we just FaceTime and we have a little catch up at the beginning, and then we're just writing. And it's really nice just to have someone there also writing with you, because it doesn't allow you to procrastinate. Like, you know, you're just wasting their time really as well if you're procrastinating. So you just got to get the words done. Now, let's just say you're not feeling very inspired, or you're feeling stuck. You don't really know where to go next. You haven't plotted it out, and you are just not feeling like writing. So this has happened to me many times. Like, guys, I've done it all. I've had moments where I'm just like, this is absolute complete crap. I am canning the whole project. I'm over it. No, like, let's be realistic. You're here for the long haul. November is a long month. So what I tend to do when I'm not feeling inspired to write, but I need to write, or the book's just not really hooking me and I'm like questioning the whole book, this is just an opportunity to write that fun scene that you know is further down the book, or maybe not even in your book, but you just really want to write it. I think this is the thing, that writing is supposed to be fun, but it's also really difficult. And I think like sometimes when you know you're writing chronologically and you're just in a bit of a scene that is just a bit of filler, or like, you know, it's not really exciting, you're not in that frame of mind right now. I write a kissing scene. I just write the two love interests just getting together. And that's what I do when I'm really stuck. It's like, you know what, I'm just not feeling what I'm writing right now. I just want to write something fun. And guess what? Sometimes those scenes have actually made it into my manuscript, because they've been what I've wanted to write, and they've just allowed my brain to kind of, you know, right, we're gonna have a bit of fun now, and then we'll get back to the scene we're supposed to write. And I think that's so fun. Like, I think if you're, you know, if you're not feeling the scene you're writing, you're not in that right headspace, just write what you want to write and then get back to it. Sometimes that's a really nice creative outlet where you're still writing, you're still in the story, you're still being productive, but you're writing something fun that you actually like writing, and it's a way to just kind of kickstart that creativity, kickstart that writing juices that you need. And yeah, sometimes you just need to write the kissing scene. Do you know what I mean? It's always the answer. So guys, those are the top tips and tricks that I'm going to be using this November to help me write my next project, which is super exciting. I do hope to do 1 or 2 writing vlogs. I won't be doing weekly vlogging, as I just find time is an issue, but also I'm aware that not everyone wants to see writing vlogs. So do stick around, please hit that subscribe button. There is a lot more writing content coming up. And do let me know about your project down in the comments below. Let me know if you're going to be taking part in NaNoWriMo, please. I will also leave my NaNoWriMo page where you can add me as a buddy. Like, let's hold each other accountable, let's support each other. Definitely add me and I'll add you back, and let's do this together. Also, another reminder, I have so many videos on writing in NaNoWriMo, so I'll leave that playlist down below. If you're looking for your next burst of inspiration after this video, watch my other videos. I've got so many, like, in my opinion, helpful videos. I hope they're helpful for you. Lots more tips and tricks. So I really do hope you found this video useful as well. Thank you so much for watching, and happy writing. Bye.